if you were to ask me if this is a game that's worth your time, especially after you're coming from C9, the short answer is yes. And the long answer is also yes. Duh. No, the long answer is going to be partially explained in the following few minutes. Other than that, I'll make a separate comparison video to basically elaborate more in-depth similarities, but also differences between Kritika Online and C9. Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you guys for joining me once again. My name is Wilky and I'm back with a little bit of a different video. We're not gonna discuss so much the actual gameplay footage I'm gonna be showing you, but generally this will be one of at least two videos I'm gonna be making in regards to is Kritika Online for you, and I'll make a few comparisons between Kritika Online and C9 at this point. However, I'll keep the major points for at least the second video, or maybe even third, depending on how in-depth I'm gonna go for the comparison between those two games. Anyways, let's go right into it. Basically, what to expect from Kritika Online. What is Kritika Online actually? Kritika Online is another action RPG that basically follows very similar routes to C9, Dragonist, or any other dungeon crawler, instance-based game like that. It focuses heavily on the combat system, which can be seen, or rather reflects how the rest of the game is developed. It seems to be heavily focused on the combat system. It's very, very fast-paced. It's insanely fluent for me. I really feel like it's a very polished combat system. Other than that, as I said, it's an instance-based dungeon, so you basically travel from town to town. You enter a portal, and then you select one of the few dungeons you have as an option, then you can choose a difficulty. It's basically very straightforward. As I said, for those of you who are familiar with the action RPG genre, it feels second nature to you straight away. For those of you who aren't, it's basically divided into sections, and you pick one of the dungeons, which you then either enter alone or in a party to clear it. A good thing about the game is that it uses a score system or combat rating system, which basically gives you at least a little bit of direction and a sense as to whether or not the dungeon you're about to go in is either too hard or maybe too easy for you. Take that number with a grain of salt, because it doesn't reflect your class, it doesn't reflect your playstyle or how good you're playing, but it generally gives you a good idea, or at least somewhat of an idea, of whether or not the game is something for you or not. It uses a stamina system, which is very common in these types of games. However, it uses I guess a bit of a different system than most other games, but I'll cover that rest point system, which it's called in Kritika Online, in the second video. Other than that, there's crafting involved in the game, there's PvP involved in the game. I think the main focus of this game is really combat and going to be PvP. There's a 1v1 arena, there's 3v3s, there's capture the flag modes, and there's even a, I guess, sort of PvE/PvP mix, in which mode you basically have to kill a boss that spawns in the arena, but you can also prevent your enemy team from killing their boss by actively killing them. So it's a bit of a sort of mix between PvE and PvE. Other than that, character progression is very straightforward. You start out with one of the currently 4 base classes we have available. So it's just like C9, you pick one of the base classes, and at a later stage in the game, you are basically prompted to make a class/job change, which will then allow you to advance or pick a more specific class that derived from a base class, and afterwards, at level 50, which is not too long into the game afterwards, you'll be basically able to awaken your class, further enhancing your skills, getting a couple new skills or passive add-ons, or drastically changing how some of these skills work. As I said, if you're familiar with C9, this feels like a very second nature to you. But also for those of you who've never played an action RPG, don't be afraid to give it a shot. It's very straightforward. The game holds your hand quite well, and it's very easy to get used to the system. It basically tells you what to do, where to do it. The dungeons are divided into segments. They basically show you question marks on the map, so you know exactly where to go and where there are quest locations or quest items you need to collect. So it's very easy to get used to. So if you just want to go for a game that does not require too much thinking, too much research, or things like that, Kritika Online can definitely be your thing. There are two remarks that I have to make. One, I do know that the art style may be a killer for a lot of people, because compared to C9, C9 looked a lot more, I guess, mature and less cartoony, less anime-ish. So if that's something that you're not very comfortable with, I'm afraid you may not entirely like Kritika Online. And the other thing is, there are, especially if you play in a party, there's a lot of clutter going on the screen. So if you're not comfortable with effects and skills being flung around your screen, I'm sure there are options to maybe tone the effects down, but generally it's a lot of effects and flashiness flying all over your screen. So if that's something you don't necessarily like, I'm afraid you may not really enjoy the game, at least not playing in a party. However, as I said, these are things that I do understand might be a major turnoff for a lot of you guys. But generally, I think the game has a lot to offer. It plays very fluently. Right now, we're in closed beta. The closed beta test is scheduled until the 13th of June, so it's around about a bit more than 2 weeks now. I'm not entirely sure if there's going to be another closed beta phase, or if we're directly going into closed beta. There's no set date yet. The only information we received so far is that the open beta is going to be taking place in summer, which, if you ask me, if I were to make a guess, I'd say it's going to be something within the next 3 to 4 months, maybe earlier, hopefully not later, but that's what I expect the open beta to be there. As usual, after the closed beta, progress is going to get wiped, but they do hand out open beta rewards for reaching certain levels in closed beta, so there's definitely incentive to try the game out. Other than that, I do know right now lag may be an issue for a lot of people, but keep in mind that right now we're all playing on the American server, and for open beta we will have a European server as well, which is going to be located in Germany. So those are all the information. There's plenty of more information they're giving us out, which really makes me happy. It seems that On Monster Entertainment seems to be tries to be very transparent about things like that. And they also explained why they did certain choices, and that basically our version is unique, and it's still the same game, but our version plays differently, our rest point system is differently. Apparently our dungeons have been changed in difficulty to make it more challenging, so there's a lot of these changes that come into play. Anyways, as I said, if you were to ask me the question, is this game worth your time? And I'd say without a doubt yes. If you're into the action RPG genre, if you're into games that basically give you the kick because it's fast paced, it's like an action RPG hack and slash type of game, then definitely give it a shot. If you played games like C9, Dragon Nest, and enjoyed those games, then definitely give it a shot. If you're not off-put by the art style, then definitely go give it a shot. I'm sure you'll like your stay. And like I said, it's currently closed beta, so you might have trouble getting into the game. Look out for sites that will potentially hand out keys, or if you're really intrigued by the game already, you can always grab one of the founder packs. Anyways, the long answer is yes, I definitely give it a shot for those of you, and I'll make a separate video covering major points that are very similar to C9, but also a few differences in the future. If you have any other questions or any concerns about the game, feel free to hit me up, and I'll definitely let you know if this is something you can enjoy, or I can help you make a decision for you as well. So hopefully this was interesting and helpful for some of you guys, and as always, see you guys